Hi, we're Shannon and Jerry Arner.
And our dog, Betty White.
Your hosts of the Arner Adventures podcast.
Could we have named it something more creative? Probably. But it's the name of our blog. It's our last name. We're on an adventure. Yada, yada, yada. After owning our own business, working 24/7.
And don't forget a mental breakdown in between.
We made a lifestyle change and decided to make the most out of life.
We sold our house, most of our belongings, downsized, and moved to the coast.
We live life minimally, but fully.
We live each day as an adventure.
This show will help you learn how to live life more fully, with more intention, by experiencing more, and with less stuff.
We'll talk about our own experiences, interview others who have much to share by creating a spark in our lives.
Some days we'll share real-life ongoings of what we're going through, and others will talk about our favorite flavor of waffle.
Come join our adventure.
It's the Arner Adventures Podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Shannon.
Our little 12-year-old furry gal, Betty White, is hanging with us, of course, and we're back for episode 29 of the Arner Adventures Podcast.
Yes, Betty White turned 12 years old this week. We can hardly believe it, can we?
Okay.
Our little senior gal. We had a birthday party for her. Consists of some frozen homemade blueberry treats, backyard pool, and papaladas. If you all follow us on Instagram and saw on our stories, Betty White was featured on Radio Margaritaville recently, and they had a Dog Days of Summer post. So if you saw that, you kind of get the picture of what her birthday party looked like. Party as in PAW-TY, we like to say. We'll link that for you in the show notes so you get to see how she was sort of the star of Radio Margaritaville for the day.
It was a big day for the girl. That's right. Tell you what, today we have a Spark in Our Lives episode with someone we've been wanting to have on the show for a while now. But first, let's get to our review of the week.
Right. Another exciting thing. Today's review comes from Bex Reef 12. Bex Reef 12 says, "Love the Arner Adventures podcast. The lifestyle information they share and the guests are positive and enriching to my life. We need more positivity and the Arners are giving it."
Wow. Thank you so much, Bex Reef 12. That means a lot. That means a whole lot to us. And what a really cool thing to read.
Yeah.
That's just cool.
Yeah. And if you'd like to be our review of the week and get the chance to receive a gift from Sugar Wish, please take a moment and give us a 5-star review or rating. It's never, ever overlooked and underappreciated that you all take your time to give us a review. It's always just so nice to see that pop up in our email.
Yeah, and we have an easy link for y'all to follow. It's lovethepodcast.com/Arner Adventures, which is also linked in the show notes. It helps us a lot by keeping us motivated to help others find out about us and to keep this train moving forward, you know?
Yeah, I do know. And to be sure that you are notified each time we have an episode drop, be sure to hit that subscribe button in the platform that you're listening to us on.
Well, let's tell you a little bit about our guest today. She's a plant-based advocate. After having some health issues, she found that many of the foods that she enjoyed were at the center of the problem. She was determined to feel better, so she began eating mostly plants and she moved away from animal products.
Something that we know a little bit about. She leaned into the research and took courses in whole foods, plant-based nutrition. The result was, well, she had less pain and more energy. Her story and the way she tells it is just so inspiring. We have been following her for a long time, and she is just a lovely person and just has such a wonderful platform. It's called Black Girls Eat. Our guest is L.A. Dunn, and we cannot wait to share our conversation with you.
Well, let's just get to our guest. You ready?
I'm ready. Are you originally from the Bronx?
Yes, I am originally from the Bronx, born and raised, BX all day, real New Yorker.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I think that is so great.
That is cool.
Absolutely. Even though I have to say, I spent about 5 years going between New York and Denver. When I first started dating my husband, he was like, "I've got some great news. I think I'm taking a client in Denver." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, we'd only known each other a couple of months." And he was like, "We got to do a long distance thing." And I was kind of like, "Really? But then I'm a huge Denver Broncos fan. So the thought of being at Mile High Stadium is what really made it all work. So
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
years, and I think I missed maybe 3 home games for the Broncos. And I loved being in Aurora. I loved being in Denver. And I was always in the red eye to New York every Sunday. I was an assistant principal in schools. And so,
Oh,
yes, I have been a third grade teacher. I've been a seventh grade teacher. I've been a middle school assistant principal.
I
Mm,
totally see
wow.
that now.
Yeah.
I totally see that.
That's pretty cool.
I see that now, having now think about your reels and the way that you sort of teach. I feel like I can see that now.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really interesting because when reels first emerged, I didn't know how really to do them.
Oh, yeah, me
And then
neither.
I was like, what's happening? So I made a bunch of reels that's why I said these reels have been watched worldwide by 4 people, right? 'Cause
Oh, that's funny.
and then one day I just said, you know what? You have to make content that's useful for people. You have to make a video that someone would save or that someone would want to share with a friend. And so while I think it's cool to do the cutesy funny things sometimes, I think people really are looking for those nuggets of like, oh, I can make cauliflower rice.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That one.
And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
that was a big aha for me. And that's when I just started like making longer edits, not so
Mhm.
choppy, just like here I am putting the rice in the pan. Here I am adding the vegetables. Here I am enjoying what I just made. I was like, that is what you need to do for folks
Right.
because I am not a complicated girl. And so I was like, yeah, so your reel shouldn't be complicated either, right? It's like,
Right.
here I am slicing a purple potato, and now I'm making chips. Right? It's not
Right.
that deep, right?
Right.
And so now I see, it's so funny. People, are saving the reels and, reaching out to me and showing me. One of my favorite things is when I wake up and I pick up my phone and someone has sent me photos of food that they prepared based on something that I did at Black
Oh,
Girl Eat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hands down,
Oh, I can't
hands down.
imagine.
That's where it's all worth it, I'm sure.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And this word influencing, I'm influencing people to make healthier choices. I'm influencing people to try to do things differently. And like that is just like, wow. I mean, that and every now and again I'll get an image of someone wearing a Black Girls Eat t-shirt, which is like a whole nother level of like, what?
Yeah.
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 But yeah, so that's really where it's at for me, when the food space to me, and it's interesting, I love to learn, right? And I'm learning so much about how this country creates food and how other countries create food and what we label food and it's just unbelievable to me. It's like a whole different planet. But I felt like it was too complicated for the everyday person who
Right.
really I'm majoring in English, right? So I'm all things Shakespeare, right? But you know, macros, micros, I don't even count calories, which, it's like, whoa, you know, kind of like, and so, yeah, Black Girls Eat, I felt like, well, I think we didn't talk about this, but I will say, it all started because I really, really wasn't feeling well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's actually, we'll just go ahead and leave right in. So the first question we have is, of course, I heard your story in person. I had read a little bit before, but I would love it if you could tell our listeners about, yes, how it started, your whole thing about how Black Girls Eat originated.
So for about a year, I had like all these aches and pains, like all the time. Like my wrists were hurting, my knees were hurting, my ankles were hurting. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And, I'm like, I'm getting older, but like, slow down. This is ridiculous. Like, what's really going on? And I started like just taking Tylenols all the time, over the counter medicines to feel better or even to go to sleep. Because what would really happen is like in the middle of the night, I would just wake up just so uncomfortable. And then finally, I found a rheumatologist. I found this woman in New York City, Dr. Maggie Cadet. And I think before her, I had gone to the doctor a couple of times. And it really was like, like, we don't really know. It wasn't really, I didn't feel like I was taken seriously. And so when I met with her, she gave me like a battery of tests, like for everything, and 2 weeks later we met and she said, okay, so you don't have lupus, you don't have cancer, all the big stuff. It's like, it's
Yeah.
really interesting to take all those tests and then you have to get the results. Like, I almost didn't want the results because I was
I
like,
know.
wait a minute, like whatever. But she said to me, your inflammation markers are high. And we talked about what is an inflammation marker. And she was like, for some people, they just are high. Inflammation causes pain in your body. But, some foods can cause inflammation. And I was like, really? So, I went home and I, of course, started typing in foods that cause inflammation. And meat was at the top of the list. Meat, dairy, sugar, alcohol. Some say coffee, some say not coffee. But I reflected on my own daily food intake, and it was like, whoa, well, if I wake up and have an egg, ham and cheese sandwich, that have a turkey and cheese sandwich for lunch, and then I have, whatever, I was like, maybe I should take all these things out of my diet for a couple of days and see what happens. And so I said, I'm going to do it for 10 days. And I had just, at this point, I wasn't really aware of the term plant-based nutrition, but I just stripped away meat and dairy and coffee and alcohol and flour and rice and all that kind of stuff. And I just did like root vegetables and veggies. And by the 5th day, I felt different.
5 days.
5 days. I was like,
Wow.
first of all, I went to sleep naturally. That was the big one for me and my husband. Because honestly, I'd have to take somebody's PM something overnight to go to sleep, or, 3 glasses of Merlot. I don't know. But it was like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was sleeping naturally. And then I think that weekend I started looking at plant-based nutrition. Somehow I got into like the rabbit hole of the internet and started reading about like how people were reversing heart disease and reversing obesity and managing diabetes through a plant-based diet. And then, of course, I'm reading that Black people are like number one on the list for all of those things. And I was like, this is not good. Like, this is not healthy. And so I took some classes. Yeah, I was like, wow. So along the way, I took these classes at the Center for Nutrition Studies and learned about T. Colin Campbell, and started learning about whole foods, plant-based nutrition, which, by the way, I've been shopping in Whole Foods forever, right? It's like, oh, that's why it's called Whole Foods.
I remember when I discovered that too. I was like, oh, Whole Foods. Okay.
It's like I say, I'm from the Bronx. My family's from the South. My husband's family's from the Caribbean. So yes, we know plants, we know vegetables, but not like center stage like that. And so like my food, like I consider myself like a really bougie New Yorker, right? I'd been to every 5-star restaurant in New York. Like, I'm all about that. But actually at home, I wasn't really like such a fancy smancy girl, And so when I started leaning into plant-based nutrition, it forced me to like expand my food vocabulary and learn about new fruits and vegetables. And I tell this joke all the time. I was in the store and I had read that if you're not going to eat meat, you have to make sure you have protein. And you can get protein through a lot of vegetables, which was shocking to me as well, because I grew up where it was like there was meat and then a little thing of veggies and a little thing of rice on the plate like every day, right? And so the idea that there were actually plants and veggies that will give you protein was like, what? And people are like, probably getting too much protein. Everybody's like, and that's not good for your body, right?
Right.
And so when I think about strength, right, and I learned this in the class, when Popeye wanted to get strong, he ate spinach.
Yeah.
What? Like mind blowing. So I was shopping, and I said to my husband, "Oh, I need this quinoa. We got to get this quinoa. This is like, He's like, babe, I love you. Now it's quinoa." He was like, and we just laughed. And that was the beginning of Black Girls Eat. I said, you know what? I can't be the only Black girl running around here not aware of all these different superfoods, whole foods, super greens. I'm going to make a company called Black Girls Eat.
I'm a productivity junkie, and having my time wasted is a pet peeve of mine. I've said that here before.
Yes, you have.
Well, you know that we like to share our tips and tricks and things that work for us, so I wanted to share something that we love.
Sharing is caring, as we always say.
Sharing our rides around town on our Schwinn electric bikes is fun, and it's also productive because we get to spend time together, run errands, and zip all around town with ease.
We don't have to worry about those crazy gas prices or parking spaces, especially living in a beach town in season.
Our Schwinn e-bikes go up to 45 miles on a single charge and up to speeds of 20 miles per hour. That's a lot of coverage.
Yeah, when they need recharging, it only takes 4 hours. Talk about a time saver.
Oh man, right up my alley.
Schwinn is giving our listeners a discount of $150 when purchasing an e-bike of your own. Just use code ARNER150 at schwinnbikes.com. We'll link it for you in the show notes. This savings is valid now through July 12th on the Schwinn Costin DX, the models we have, and the Costin CE models.
Really the best models.
Oh, yeah.
That's code ARNER150 because we are all about providing you value just like Schwinn.
And, forgive me for the comparison, but it's the only thing I can kind of think of I'm going to speak for us being this white couple, but being here in the South, and we're not completely plant-based. I feel like we go through these phases of being plant-based, but we right now dabble in dairy, unfortunately. But look, we do our best, which is how you come in. And I love that you always say that. You're like, we're always doing our best, and that's what you do. But I think, and I've talked about this a lot on our blog and stuff, that being in the South, I think I'm not making excuses for it. I have just noticed that we get a lot of probably flack, especially in certain pockets of where we live. When we don't eat meat, it's almost looked at like, what do you mean? Like, it's almost like asking the question, you don't eat? No, we don't eat meat. You don't eat, Well, especially when we left the Raleigh area. And at first I worked outside of Raleigh, 30 miles, but it was like a culture shock, and telling people that, oh, my wife and I went meatless, and I thought it was going to start a riot. So my question to you is, for Black Girls Eat, is it similar in the Black community? Only because I have read and heard in certain pockets it is in minority groups. Was it that way? And did you feel that there was a need for that, for you to speak out about being plant-based? Does my question make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, I would say for me personally, I've had similar experiences with my own family. I mean, I went to Richmond, Virginia to go to dinner. And, they went to the Texas rodeo. Or maybe I shouldn't say the company because I don't know. But they went to this big place where it was like slabs of ribs, slabs of steak. There was a baked potato this big with butter and gravy, and a sweet potato this big with maple and whipped cream. And I was like, whoa. And I asked for a salad, and I got this little bowl. Little wooden bowl with some iceberg lettuce, a couple of shredded carrots, cherry tomato, and then they chopped up pieces of steak to put on the salad, right? No, I didn't get anything. And a little cherry tomato, a little red pie. And I just felt like, what in the whole hell? Yeah, I think that for when I first started saying I was focused on plant-based nutrition, people immediately in my family felt like I was taking away everything, right? So the first Thanksgiving, everybody was like, are we going to starve at our house? Like, what's happening? Like, are we going to be able to eat? And so I'm not a vegan, right? And that's a big, big difference, right? Vegan is like, I'm never going to eat anything that had a face or a parent. So I'll have seafood, right? I'll have, I won't turn away a tuna salad that was made with maybe some eggs, right? But that's so I found myself in education space a lot, just helping my family and folks close to me understand what I mean when I say I'm a plant-based advocate. I'm advocating for you to put more plants on your plate.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a big start for a lot of people. And a lot of my friends forget about it, right? It's like, whoa, I just want you to put more plants on your plate. Like, look at your plate. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's what being a plant-based advocate is for me. And definitely I've been in those scenarios with families and friends. I have a good aunt that whenever I show up at her house, she goes, oh God, I don't have anything for LA to eat. But there's green beans, there's potato salad, There's collard greens. There's all kind of yummy things. There's cornbread. There's all kind of yummy things on the table. But her mental model is, oh God,
Yeah.
I have nothing for LA to eat, And so the first couple of years, it was just like this slow massaging of the messaging, like, relax. I'm just looking for more plants and grains.
Right.
Just looking for more whole foods, I grew up, the mashed potatoes, were in a package and you add hot water and it was like,
Yeah.
and then the real potatoes came out, for holidays and stuff like that.
Totally.
It's like, okay, so it's like, we have these convenience foods, right? It's convenient, right? That was a big deal. You got to work your parents. I've been watching this TV show about the history of different foods, how they made the TV dinner, how that came about, and at the same time, the refrigerator came about, right? All, the freezer at the same time. It's like, I love all that stuff. I've always loved timeline stuff. And so, I think that in the South, in other areas, not just even, it's just like, sometimes it feels like a judgment, like that you're making a judgment. And it's like, no, I'm not making a judgment. I'm making a choice that, I want to make healthier food choices. And so when I first started going in the South, like there was no organic produce in Walmart. Right. But, and also, right. And then like recently though, there's a whole section, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't find chia seeds in Walmart, right? Walmart is like the place. When I go down south, like everybody buys everything at Walmart.
100%.
Right? Like maybe Wegmans and Fredericksburg, but for the most part, it's Walmart. So learning about like what needs to be organic, what doesn't need to be organic, that was the other thing. I found myself helping people understand the marketing of food is very, very confusing. Everything doesn't need to be organic, right? And some stuff is like, well, if you can get it, right? And then what does that even mean? Was it grown conventionally? Everything is grown with something, right? I mean, you got to grow stuff. So people are being more conscious about, well, what was my stuff grown in? Okay, but like, I'm always encouraging people to shop at your level, to do the best that you can. Right. And it's like, don't get caught up in the marketing of things. Like I bought avocados. They're not organic. I'm thinking avocados are so rock hard. What's going to get inside of that?
Yeah.
Right. But maybe strawberries, which is like, oh my God. Right. Like, such a sensitive little piece of fruit. Maybe we might want to take a look at those organically. Right. One of the favorite websites is at ewg.org.
Yeah. The environmental
working group. I think so. So they do this amazing, like, clean 15 and, dirty, whatever. So I say, people say to me, how do I start a plant-based life? And I'm like, well, do your research. Past like talking to your doctor and making sure or whatever. I would just say, do your research. But I really spent a lot of time relaxing people's mental model around what I mean when I say I'm choosing to put more plants on my plate. And I spend a lot of time helping people navigate the marketing of things. People are labeling things in the supermarket, plant-based and vegan and this, that, and the other. But the truth is, if you're fighting heart disease, if you're fighting obesity, if you're fighting, for a healthier body, we don't want to have you consuming processed foods that are no good for you, even if the label says plant-based.
And
right?
you've talked before about the word natural and how false that is and how the marketing part of that.
Listen, I read this book. What is it called? Wild. It's right over there. Oh my gosh. I got to get the name of this book. Wild Diet.
Okay.
A friend of mine gave me this book, Wild Diet. It changed my life. This guy talked about how the beavers produce a substance that has a vanilla-like flavor. And you might find that vanilla-like flavor in some of your French vanilla offerings.
Oh.
That's all.
Oh.
So, when people say natural, you got to really.
Really? So that could be considered natural.
Right. There was somebody else talking about in paper mills when they have a runoff.
I've heard you say this before.
Right. It has this mapley, syrupy kind of taste or whatever, or vanilla-ish taste. And that people were using that in vanilla extract products, It's kind of like, whoa.
Can you believe that?
So yeah, like I'm just an everyday girl trying to like put some good food on the table for my family.
Right.
Yeah.
And not eat paper mill runoff. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious, the practices. So yeah, it's kind of like, and then you think about like where you live and what kind of supermarkets you have access to, what kind of groceries you have access to. It just pains me because I mean, the price of groceries right now is just out of control. Like just out of control. Everything
yeah.
is everything. I went to buy 16 ounces of spinach, fresh spinach, and they wanted $8.16.
Wow.
So I left it in the store. So
Yeah.
I have a little garden in the backyard that I started
Yeah.
last year, which
Yep.
I never thought I would garden. I would never. I would never. And it's been so much fun. And so
Yeah.
Yeah.
it really has been.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful because I have a bunch of red kale
Uh-huh.
and another lettuce back there that's growing so nicely. And so they will
Uh-huh.
not get me for $8.16. This is
No.
Right.
gonna
We
go.
we have a little space here, but we have a container, like a raised bed, a
Mhm.
couple raised bed gardens. And when I tell people that we love our gardening, like we did it a couple years ago for the
Yeah.
first time. We
Uh-huh.
love it so much.
We
Yeah.
have
When
8
she had
days. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, when she had to go away, I had to tend to it, and I realized then more and more how much I enjoy going out every day. Usually she takes the lead on that, but I was like, okay, I
Yes.
can take over
I
here.
love going
Mhm.
out and seeing what has come through, and I love just weeding it and just kind of tending to it. I can't even
Feeling
explain how
things, pulling
exciting it
leaves.
is.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know.
know. It feels great to run down the driveway and get my cherry tomatoes.
Yes.
I'm very grateful to the folks here at the Stone Barn Center for Food and Agriculture. They're
Yeah.
just north of the Bronx, and their partnership has been incredible. And they're the ones that encouraged me to plant this garden. Yeah, we have 8 raised elevated, beds, and
Wow.
I love the cherry tomatoes. I love all the different lettuces. I love the potatoes. I love all of it. And I think, it's interesting. I never thought I would plant anything, but, I think it's been fun for Taryn, my daughter, we plant the basil near the tomato. Did you know that? That's what
No.
I learned.
Uh-uh.
You plant the basil underneath the tomatoes because the tomatoes give the basil shade. And it's
Oh
no
wow.
wonder that we love tomato basil combinations, right? It's like,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
Oh
Oh,
my
that's
God.
crazy.
We got
Right?
somebody out there
Good.
too.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, so we
Now,
love that.
when we're seeing I think my big introduction to you, I fell in love with your cooking videos on Instagram immediately, and I had to go through the whole thing and watch them all. Is all that most of what I'm seeing is coming out of your garden, handpicked?
Yeah, a lot of times. And then I like to go to farmers markets.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I like to go to farmers markets. Another joke. I used to go to farmers market just for the apples, right? Like I'm just like,
Oh,
oh,
we've been there. We used
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
that
yeah.
too.
Mhm.
And
right
we were like,
now,
oh, look at us. Look at us. We're so savvy. We went to the farmer's market today and got our
Yes, a big
apples.
old bag of apples.
exactly.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but the farmers market turned into like another like classroom, right? I started actually talking to farmers and like trying different vegetables and like things that I would have ignored. Squash was a big one. I used to just ignore every squash. I don't care. Butternut, acorn, delicata, carnival, celebration. I didn't know what to do
Wow.
with them, but I
I
would
didn't
go
even
to,
know all those
No, I
existed.
didn't either.
well, it's funny, before COVID, I used to do these workshops and we would give prizes. And I would say, who can name the most kinds of squash in 30 seconds and give these prizes? And people would be like,
Huh.
butternut. That's it. But I felt so silly once I realized how amazing all these squashes were and how that could just change your lunch, your dinner, your meals. It's just like what? It's like a whole section that I just would just walk by because I just never understood like what to do with any of it. And
Yeah.
so now I love farmers markets. I love the variety. I read that there's over 1,000 vegetables available to us on the planet, and I had been eating the same 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we get into a rut too with
Yeah.
vegetables. And even in our garden this year, when I was kind of getting seeds and talking to different people locally about what we could grow, they were like, you should try to grow this. And I said, oh, well, I don't know anything about that. And they were like, well, it's good and it grows well here. You should try it. And I was like, okay. And then we would get
Absolutely.
excited about it, with like these new peppers we didn't even know about and,
That's
just
right.
different things. So
It's true.
yeah.
Like, yeah, like when I got the plants for my tomatoes, like there's a Sausalito version. There's a Napa, all these different versions of cherry tomatoes. So some of them are really orange and some of them are really, red. Same thing with the peppers, a lunchbox pepper. It grows, there's no seeds, all these different things. Like,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
know. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I've already learned a little bit of that with peppers too from our garden. Different things coming up. But yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the myths that surround plant-based eating, because of course there's a ton of them and what keeps people away from it. And we've talked about some of them. And I know we have talked about price because it is real and there's a lot of food deserts. And I know that, a lot of people are trying to start co-ops. And I know that whenever I have visited New York City, I sometimes can walk through, and I don't know how a lot of them work in bigger cities, but sometimes I can walk past what looks like co-ops and these community gardens and things. Yes. But some people say, they can't eat plant-based because it's too expensive. So what would your answer to that be?
My answer to the plant-based dilemma is, what do you mean when you say you want to eat plant-based? Like, what exactly do you mean? Are you saying you want to add more plants to your plate?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just want to add more plants to your plate, then we can find all kinds of interesting ways to do that, right?
Yeah.
If your typical breakfast is 2 hard-boiled eggs and a slice of bacon, then we know what we got to do, right? I think that's the first thing. I also feel like the conversation around adding foods to your table that have not been heavily processed is a big one, right? If you have a life where hot water turns everything into food, we should probably talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how does 2 cups of hot water turn a packet into broccoli, chicken, and cheese?
Right.
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
You don't think about.
So
made me think about how the mashed potatoes, I used to enjoy those kind better than the real ones when I was a kid.
Right, condition. Like, I want that. Yeah, I mean, I remember the Velveeta cheese package, and all that kind of stuff. Right, and now, like, I make cheese sauce all the time for
Oh my
town.
God. We're going to get to that in a second, but go ahead.
So this thing is like, I want to go plant-based, but I can't afford it. I would just like peel the layers all the way back to that and say, but what exactly are you trying to do? When you go out to a fast food restaurant, what are the options there? Like, can you eat at home before you go out with your friends? Like, what is exactly that you're trying to do? I feel like it's like this big, like, I can't eat plant-based because it's expensive. Okay, but what part, right? What part of it? Is it the ready-made plant-based meal in the frozen food section that's $8, right? What part of it? I think if we could break that down, it's such a personal thing. It's such an individualized thing. If we could help folks really break down what they mean. I found a lot of times people just mean, I just want to make healthier choices.
Right.
So we get there.
Yeah.
Then we could get to work.
Well, and I think the next one that we hear a lot, and it used to be ours, when we first, I think, started eating more plant-based, was that we thought it was too difficult to cook. And it was just that we didn't know how.
Yeah.
Like I remember when we would go to, I don't know, a grandparent's house or whatever, and they would say, hey, so-and-so brought me all of those vegetables. You want to take some with you? There's no way I can eat them. And we would be like, yeah, I guess. And we'd take them and we'd get them on the counter and we would just like look at them.
Yeah.
And I would go, what are we going to do with it?
And we didn't know how to flavor them then. We didn't know enough about the spices to maybe, amp up the taste a little bit.
Yeah.
Which we learned a lot more.
But I do think a lot of people go through that whole mindset of that's just going to be too hard to cook. Yeah. And I will just say before you answer it is you should definitely go to Black Girls Eat because you will show them how to do it. But now answer it. Go ahead.
What's so funny is like, I feel like you're cooking less, right? So like if you take a purple yam and you boil it and then you peel the outer skin and you whip up some oat milk or whatever, right? You've got this whole bowl of whipped purple mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Right? Like what? I learned how to roast chickpeas, right? So I've got
the best. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
1 can of chickpeas, 99 cents.
Yeah.
I drain the liquid. I add salt, pepper, paprika, whatever seasonings I like, and I throw them in the oven.
Oh, right? So good.
So now I've got carrots and beets and I don't know, red potatoes. So I cut all of those up. And I put them on a big tray, and I drizzle the olive oil, salt, and pepper, and I roast that for 30 minutes. So when I get ready to sit down, I've got this purple mashed potatoes, some roasted chickpeas, and some roasted carrots and potatoes and beets. This
I'm getting
beautiful,
I was gonna say.
right? Can you imagine? Can you visualize the plate? It's
Yes.
purple. It's orange. It's fiber. It's all, and we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything. We put it all in the oven,
Right.
and you've got. So I feel like that's like back in the day, I used to feel like that about baking. Like, whoa, you had to be like a queen bee to bake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa, see the women with the flour on their forehead.
Yes.
Oh gosh,
Yes.
And then I realized, no, it's not that deep. It
Right.
takes 15 minutes to make cookie batter, right? My daughter wants cookies on a random Wednesday. Great. We do the flour, the baking powder, right? The vanilla, mix it all up with a little whatever, and she's got cookies in like 15 minutes. So I think this is again like the marketing of it. Cooking is hard. Eating is hard, which is why I feel like a lot of people are, this world, they dish out medicine that way, right? We're going to give you the medicine because we don't believe you're going to do the things you need to do to make healthier food choices. Like,
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right? So
Right.
it's like, it's not that it's hard. And, for me, I really feel like we used to never roast vegetables when I was younger. That was the other thing. Like, what is this roasted vegetable thing? Like, I don't even remember when that started.
If you have been listening to us for a while now, you know that we love to keep it eco-friendly and fun when it comes to our ventures.
Let's talk about something that's been a little bit of an addiction, a conversation starter around town, and well, really an excuse to get out and go anywhere around our little island.
It's our new Schwinn electric bikes, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow. Let's talk about it. Our Schwinn e-bikes. First, they are sleek. The colors blend right in the ocean theme. Am I right?
Yep. They can blend right in with our laid-back lifestyle, too, especially if we want to use the Schwinn throttle and let it take us for a ride, or pedal if we want to get a little bit of exercise and use the pedal assist motor that also gives you a boost when you want it.
Use code HONOR150 to save $150 off your Schwinn Costin DXE bike, the ones we have, and Costin CE at schwinnbikes.com. We'll link it for you in the show notes, too.
If you're like us, you're going to want to leave the car parked, never move it, and only ride your Schwinn e-bike. It goes up to 20 miles per hour, so just take a joyride and enjoy the scenery.
And the adventure. Don't forget that code to save $150 using code HONOR150, linked in the show notes. Valid from now until July 12th.
But I roast everything. And I'll get up at 5 a.m. before everybody, especially if it's hot, like summertime or whatever, and turn the oven on and roast everything.
That is brilliant. That's brilliant because I do love roasting. I've actually learned that from you, which again, we're going to talk about that again in a minute. But I actually have picked up a lot of that from you. And the only thing I don't like is how it warms up our kitchen because we live in a small house. But that's brilliant. Do it in the morning.
Exactly. I put everything, and I have this huge cookie tray where I can put like 3 or 4 different kinds of vegetables on there. And I'll just put it in the oven and then go get dressed for work. And then by the time I'm finished, it's all done. And I put everything in little Tupperwares, which is important for the family. They open the fridge and there's roasted potatoes, there's roasted carrots. Oh, there's this, so that makes it easier for everybody to engage. I know.
That is a game changer. Okay, let's get to the next one because it's my favorite is when they say it's not tasty enough. Now, here's the thing. It does depend on how you cook it. And just like anything, by the way, now a game changer recently for us because one of our things is cheese. I mean, gosh, we just love our cheese, right?
Yeah,
and
we sure do.
Something that that you introduced us to recently was the butternut squash cream sauce. And I will tell you right now, we may have that. I don't know. We may start having it a few times a week with stuff.
Or without stuff. I'll tell you, the first time my biggest problem was trying to draw it through the straw. It really didn't.
I love that.
Yeah.
It is so good. We're going to link it in the show notes because Jerry and I are big I mean, look, we love pasta. And I will tell you that we have one of those spiralizer things, which has been great because then we'll take like zucchini and make pasta out of it,
That's
which
what I'm doing
changed
today.
our life.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm doing today. I am making a salad today with arugula and spiralized zucchini and balsamic. And I love my spiralizer. And I'm saying this in the video. Like, I was trying to spiralize everything in the house when I got my spiralizer. It was ridiculous. Not only did I have the ham one, then I had another one. I had like 5 different kinds of spiralizer. My husband was like, yo, you got to just get it down to one. What is happening here? I was like in love with this thing. Yes.
It saved us because we were eating, I mean, we do eat pasta, but we were eating pasta a lot. And when we were introduced to that and how good it can be, then we started having that. But we had the butternut squash cream sauce on the zucchini pasta, that I'll call it, because we used to even do like the Alfredo sauce on the zucchini, but not anymore.
Oh, I saw that's so great.
Let's emphasize too to the people at home, the butternut squash doesn't have to go on anything.
Right.
It's its own meal.
Jerry's like, just grab a straw. No, I'm telling you, butternut squash sauce was a game changer. And the interesting thing about food is that, that sauce has probably been around forever, right? You just gotta like make it your own. And I just used to love fettuccine Alfredo. And I agree with you about the cheeses. I wasn't aware until recently, like cheddar cheese is at the top of the devil list. Like I wasn't aware. And that like, as you go further down, things like feta and Parmesan and mozzarella are a little bit more, kinder to your body. Like I didn't know that, right? And so that butternut squash sauce, you're right. I mean, I love it on pasta. Are you using any pastas that are made from vegetables, like the chickpea pastas? Do they have those, or the spinach fettuccinis they have now?
We've used the spinach. I didn't know about a chickpea pasta.
Yes, there's a chickpea pasta that's out. And so, yeah, but like, again, like we can't beat ourselves up, right? So we love a little pasta. So imagine a little pasta with this amazing butternut squash sauce that you've created, but we've also chopped in like half a cup of spinach, right? You're like, yeah. I added more plants to my plate.
Yeah.
Yummy. And, so you just got to keep looking at the plate like, where might some veggies join us? But yes, I'm with you. You make me want to make that butternut squash sauce today.
We're going to make it again tonight. We're going to make it again tonight.
Yeah.
And we're going to make, I wrote down, a while ago, you were talking, I went, yams and chickpeas. Like, I feel like I need to make that tonight. I just,
in fact, we can just stay on and have a virtual meal together.
Together. I know. I don't do enough of that. And, one of my classes, I learned that around the world, there are places where people live the longest. And in these places, the number one part of their meal was like some type of yam, either a purple yam or orange yam. And I realized you could have a yam and some dark leafy greens like every day and be good, right? I'm like, whoa. So to all the folks who say this is so hard, like the butternut squash sauce is a classic example, right? You just put the cooked butternut in a blender, right? With your seasonings. I think it's just, we have to all get out here and like say, no, that's not true. That's not true. It's not harder.
Right.
And I think we just have to help demystify the myths, because I think people are, I just heard the new Beyonce song, right? She's like, whoo, I just quit my job. I think life is hard. And one of the things about me is I'm not here to make people's lives more complicated. I'm really not.
Yeah.
I'm here to be a gentle space, a soft landing. I know there are thousands of people in the food space who, way more scientific, way more clinical, way more focused. And I just wanted Black Girls Eat to be like, I'm your girlfriend. We can go shopping together. We can, explore things together. I know what it's like to try to like engage a whole family in a lifestyle. My husband stopped eating meat like 2 years ago. He will still have, yeah, he did. Because we used to be like, oh my God, we used to be like meatloaf Monday, Taco Tuesday, Steak Wednesday. Like but like about 2 years ago, he was like, babe, I'm good if we could still do salmon. He likes to have like crab cakes, he'll do that. But for the most part, he's really, really been very supportive. And I realize I live in a food supportive home, but I have clients who are like making one meal for the kids and one meal for themselves and one meal for hubby. What I try to do is encourage folks to make lots of sides. Thanksgiving is a perfect time for that. Yes, people want to have the big turkey. Okay. But I'm saying let's make lots of amazing sides so that when you get your plate, you feel loved and nourished, right? And you don't have to like have all of the stuff that might be ailing you. Like I created Black Girls Eat because I wasn't feeling well. And I tell people this
Yeah.
all the time. Like if you're feeling great and you just enjoy the recipes, that's cool. But if you really want to talk about like why you don't feel so great and some of the things that may be causing that, then like let's really have an honest conversation. You know, I've
Yeah.
people who say to me, I went to dinner and I came home and I was sick for 2 days. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And I just feel like people need the encouragement to just be honest about what's going on. Like if
Yeah.
you're eating something and you don't feel well, then we
Yeah.
gotta
Oh my gosh. Well, you answered our next question. It was about what would you tell people who are, trying to put more plants in their life and they live in a household who maybe people aren't as supportive, but you just answered that
Yeah.
question beautifully.
Jump up
yeah,
the
make all
sides.
the sides.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just eat it all. It's fantastic. I'm making a golden beet sweet potato salad today. That's
Oh,
like, woo, right? I'm making this arugula, zucchini, balsamic
Yeah.
thing happening. Like I've got all these little things I'm working on today, and everybody eats all of it. I can't keep a bowl of roasted chickpeas on the table. I'm just here to tell you.
I mean, we love roasted chickpeas. So do
That's
you
cool.
cook the way that we talked about this? Your Instagram is just, I mean, you would salivate. If you haven't looked at it, you should.
Mhm.
But do you cook like that all the time?
No, actually, I can't believe that I cook any. And I tell people all the time, when I was younger, and gentlemen would say to me, "What do you make?" I would say, "I make reservations." That was my joke.
I make reservations really well.
Exactly. What do you make? I make reservations. No, I actually don't. I'll pick a day like today, just happens to be a quiet day. My husband's out and my daughter's sleeping, and I'll just go like make a bunch of stuff and put everything in the
Okay.
fridge. And there's like no rules. I'll just say, you guys eat whatever, once it's all made. And they will. I mean, it's really fun.
Okay.
I'm also, speaking of kids, right? Picky eaters, things like that. My daughter was way more compliant when she was like 4 or 5. Now that she's 11,
Mhm.
she's a little persnickety. But, she will make a mean lemon kale sauteed. She likes to get involved. I remember being younger, my parents would just like put the food on a plate and put it in front of you and like, you have to eat.
Yeah.
We don't really do that so much with Taryn. So like I'll make a bowl of pasta and then I'll place like marinara sauce and other seasonings all around and
Mhm.
let her construct,
Ah,
That's smart. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
That has led to like Taryn just making her own plate and enjoying what she wants to instead of me being like, you're not leaving this table until you finish that meal. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that has really helped. I always encourage folks, to deconstruct things, not just for kids, but just even for yourselves. Like if you're just gonna have like, what do we do? Like tacos is a big one, right? It's like, okay, so here are
Mhm.
the tacos, and here are all the toppings, and you make whatever you want. My tacos, I'm always doing mushrooms and black beans and sometimes tofu, but so I enjoy taco night with everybody else. Tara refuses to give up ground turkey though. She said to me, Mom, I'm just going to do it until I'm 14 and then I'm going to be a vegan. I said, "Okay, no problem."
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
That's fun. Yeah,
But
it's neat.
she's more food aware than the average kid, of course.
Yeah.
And
I
she's
love that.
yeah. I mean, I'll make something and I'll say, Taryn, I really need you to try this. And she's like, is it plant-based? Everything doesn't have to be plant-based, Mom. She'll be
You
Ah,
set a good foundation for her, though.
yeah, yeah.
Even if she starts sneaking off with her friends to get a cheeseburger once in a while, she still has
Yeah,
that
she does.
foundation.
yeah.
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 More than most kids, I would say,
Yeah.
I
probably.
think so. She's aware and she's a little foodie. She likes to try stuff and taste stuff.
Mhm.
As she
And,
gets
and
older, yeah.
what a great city that
Hmm.
you live in
Yeah.
to be so food aware, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she loves to go to restaurants, but ever since she was younger, like that's her thing. Can we go to a restaurant? She loves it. She loves to get dressed up and go out. She loves
Oh,
to go to restaurants. She loves to order, definitely. And at home, I'm always tinkering and trying to figure something out. And just like last night, she says to me, "Oh, we need a dessert of some type." And I'm like, "So what do you have in mind?" She was like, "Well, I'm thinking if we could just blend some strawberries with some cream cheese and like make a little dip. And then we could like dip the strawberry in." So we did. She did the cream cheese, strawberry, powdered sugar. And I'm thinking like, what is this mess she's making? But you know what?
It was good.
3 ingredients, no chemicals.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just gotta let a kid be a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to keep the fun in it, which it seems like you do. And
Yeah, you got to keep the fun in it. A lot. It's not so restrictive. She's a kid. Like she's gonna want to have something sweet to eat. And I felt good. Like it was 3 ingredients. Like today we are making orange creamsicle popsicles. Yes.
Ah, that'll be fun.
That'll be fun. So we're gonna do that
for the kid in you too.
Me too. Exactly. Like,
well, you travel a lot, and I know that you put that on your Instagram too, that you don't ever have a problem finding great plant-based food. And you just had that video when you were in Dubai, which was beautiful food. I mean, so there's really no barriers that anyone should have. I mean,
it's tough. Yeah, I mean, and Dubai was like incredible. They had everything. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't stop eating in Dubai. And I get it. I've traveled with family and we've stayed, at the, those hotels where they give you the breakfast, and you kind of like, you have to figure it out, right? So I grab a banana, I grab some type of granola, I do the best that I can while I'm there, because you do recognize like everybody's not on the same page. And then, and I think I'm glad you mentioned traveling, because it is a big deal. It is. It's a big deal, traveling, going to restaurants. But I also say, like, someone sent me a message yesterday and said, oh, I had a terrible day. I ate so horribly. I was like, this is where we got to get to. You just got to stop it. You have to stop it. If you went to the wedding and you ate all the food and you had a good time, then you just got to wake up today and say, and today I'm going to make different choices. We have to stop it. Unless you're like, there are people who know medically, right, what's going on with them. They've been told, right?
Right.
You have coronary heart disease.
Yeah.
You have diabetes, right? Mm-hmm. You have whatever. You've been told. You have a doctor. You have a medication. You have a routine. So like when I'm having a conversation with you, I'm just like, come on. You already know what you need to do. I'm saying, how can I help? Just like, how can I help? And so if you are really ill, but you still want to have the double cheeseburger with the bacon and the cheddar, then I'm wondering, like, that's a bigger problem than I can manage, right? That's something else that's going on.
Right.
Right. So I'm just like, we got to get really honest with ourselves about what we're doing, and why we're doing it. And so at first, I don't take on any of that. I'm very honest. I'm like, I'm pretty healthy. I feel much better, but I know there are days where I feel terrible, and I can always track why.
Yeah.
Right? I know why,
especially now that the fluidity of what it was before and then what it is now. I love that you're able to identify that. I think that's amazing.
Let me tell you, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I went to Memphis, Tennessee. Shout out to people in Memphis. But they were like, you gotta have the barbecue. You never been anywhere if you didn't have this barbecue. And I was like, I don't eat meat, really. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I sat down and I had this plate and I tried this food and I was sick for 3 days.
Yeah. If you come to North Carolina, they're going to tell you about the barbecue here too.
Everybody's with their barbecue. And every restaurant we went to, the menu was like, the entrees were meat, meat, meat. And then the sides were meat, meat, meat. It was like, I want a pork slider with a side of brisket, and I just drank water the whole weekend. I think the last day I made it to like an IHOP. And I was like, okay. Right, but yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. But I feel like most days are better than others. For the most part, I'm able to be in control of what's on my plate. But I do sympathize with people who live in certain communities, sympathize with people who have to travel. And so this is why I created the Black Girls Eat community, so we can have this talk. Like, how am I going to navigate 4th of July? Yeah. How are you going to navigate 4th of July, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not a big fan of these like processed foods, but I absolutely, one 4th of July, had a plant-based sausage on a roll with sauerkraut and mustard with potato salad and corn on the cob. And I was in it with the rest of the family and I felt great.
Did you wash it back with a cold beer?
Maybe. No, I don't drink beer, but yes. It might
Well,
be just like a hard lemonade, but definitely,
Well,
those
I know that you have the course that you offer, the
Yeah.
Intro to Plant-Based Mindset, 5 days to take you from plant curious, to plant
Yeah.
focused, which is interesting because in 5 days you felt better after switching, which I think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
can you tell us more about
Amazing.
that?
So yeah, no problem. So I created that class. I was thinking about people who are busy. I was thinking about my background as an educator. Like I would always create lessons that were like nuggets of information for young people so that by the end of the week, they actually went from point A to B. And I was like, wow, I could get people to go from plant curious to plant focused in like 5 days. So on your day one, and I'll just say this is like clean out your fridge is the very first activity.
And you lead them through like things they need to do and all.
Yep, things to read, things to watch, and it's like maybe an hour of your day. It's not like, oh God, I'm in this like intensive course, but it's like really simple things that you can read and watch and journal about, so that by the
Yeah.
end of the week, you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then from there, we do, if you want to do coaching and one-on-one stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then it gets really fun. And so,
Good.
and so yes, that 5-day intro to plant-based nutrition has been a lot of fun. I love when people sign up for that. I love on Friday when they get that last email, they're like, no, there's no more. I love all that kind of stuff. And I love, people are busy. So I love that I can give them these nuggets that they don't have to search for on their own. I've done all that searching.
Oh yeah. That's so valuable.
Yeah.
Read this right.
Get a lot
So that's
from
a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. And before COVID, I was doing all that in person, right? It's like
Yeah.
doing all that. And then of course the 15 mistakes that people make is a free download. You'll be surprised what's on that list.
Yeah.
I think
I love it. I have it. I love it.
You know what I love about water? Well, other than living by it.
Well, there are a million things to love about water. The sea life, the healing properties, part of the Earth's
Okay,
atmosphere.
all that, but I love drinking water.
Well, of course. But did you know that humans can only live a few days without water?
Yes, yet so many people live a dehydrated lifestyle.
Well, Liquid IV makes it super easy to stay hydrated.
Hey, folks, Liquid IV isn't scary. There aren't any IVs involved.
No, Liquid IV is a hydration multiplier. It's a powder form, an electrolyte mix that you just add to your water. It delivers 2 to 2.5 more hydration than water alone.
They have all kinds of flavors you can choose from, and they have some with energy multiplier and immune support. Also benefit, they are non-GMO, gluten-free, soy-free, and dairy-free.
If you're someone who either has trouble getting your water in or maybe just wants to get in the express lane with your hydration, you should definitely try Liquid IV.
For our listeners, if you go to their website, liquid-iv.com, and use code ARNERADVENTURES, you can save 25% off of your order and get free shipping.
That's awesome. We'll link it in the show notes too. Liquid IV, fueling life's adventures.
Well, we know that you did all this for your health, but we would love it if you could talk just a minute before we get into your rapid fire questions about what you do when it comes to your self-care.
Yes. Oh, I'm going to the spa next week.
Ooh!
Yes. Yes. I am definitely hanging out with my girlfriends is big.
Yeah.
I love music, so I'm be happy when concerts come back. And
Yeah.
I love to, sometimes I just sit in the backyard and read. You don't have to convince me to take like quiet time. Like I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of like unplugging. People will be like, I text you 3 times. Like, well, I didn't have the phone on all weekend.
Oh, I love that.
You gotta do that, right?
You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
I love to laugh, and life is good. I never feel like I have to escape my life, but I definitely know how to like, draw lines and create boundaries. Sometimes you just curl up on the sofa and watch a silly movie and just and just be with family. And, and then I'm a girly girl, so I love all the spas and the mani-pedis and, all that stuff. But yeah. And I love to learn, I'm always reading like 4 or 5 books at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
I do. I love to learn. And my friend says, I don't know how you do it all. It's like, I don't know if necessarily it's about doing it all. It's just everything has its place. Today I'm on the podcast with you and I'll be in the kitchen most of the day filming and making foods. And when the day is over, I'll feel accomplished. Like, oh, I've got 6 reels and food in the fridge and
Yeah.
yeah, and I love it.
You got to treat yourself here and there too. And I'm wondering, like, if you're ever in the Whole Foods and you're thinking, I could use a treat. You ever shuffle over to the wine aisle and go, I'm going to get a bottle of Merlot?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First of all, we are big fans of the grape in this house. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, we love all that. We make desserts. People are shocked when they see like sugar cookies at the Black Girls Eat website. I'm like, life is happening. One of the things about choosing plant-based nutrition, it also helped me just make things at home. So like I started thinking about chemicals and other things that they add to foods. It has nothing to do really with plant-based nutrition, but everything to do with, I think it's on theme with us just trying to make healthier food choices. So why should I like not bake this cake with 4 ingredients, right? When I could go buy this other one with 62 ingredients. Like what?
Yeah.
Well, let me make this for the family. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, whipped cream is another one. That's a classic example. I never thought I would make fresh whipped cream ever until I found out it was only 2 ingredients. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, right? I've been squeezing that container my whole life, So like things like that. And so while we may not have it last for 4 years on the shelf, right? But like it's so much fun to get the bowl, get to this. And I found a plant-based product instead of the milk that whips up just the same. I'm like, whoa, right? So yeah.
That's awesome.
You gotta be, I feel like I said to this other woman, you can't, find a man, lose weight, save $1 million, chase a career, go to church. I mean, Jesus Christ, like you can't manage all of it. It's just like, I can't believe it. You can't manage all of that. It's like, come on, we got to give ourselves a break.
Yeah.
You do.
Life is happening, man. You gotta relax.
Right.
All right, let's get to your rapid fire. And these are just like a this or that. And they're kind of catered to you. Okay. You want to start with
and don't be misled by the rapid fire. They never go that way.
I would do like the SAT. I choose C on everything. No, I'm just joking. Okay,
I know.
I'll lead.
Okay.
Because I want the odd numbers because I like the one that I inserted. In the middle.
Go ahead. All right, let's get to it.
Okay, number 1, fries or tots?
Fries.
Okay.
There you go.
Number 2, olive oil or coconut oil?
Olive oil.
Okay.
Number 3, more free time or more sleep?
More sleep.
Okay. Number 4, dine al fresco or indoors?
Oh, al fresco.
Mm-hmm.
And number 5, for everybody in the Bronx, Yankees or Mets?
Go Yankees!
I told her you got to ask that if you're from the Bronx. You got to ask that.
Absolutely.
I knew the answer.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Number 6, book or audio?
Book.
I don't think anyone that we have asked that of, and we don't ask it of everyone, but I don't think anyone we've asked that of has ever said audio.
I don't think so either.
And I just always think, well, there's got to be somebody who says audio, but nobody ever does. Okay.
Number 7, smoothie out the door or 2-hour brunch?
2-hour brunch.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 8, wine or coffee?
Oh, wine.
Okay.
And number 9.
Oh, you did? She used to be a bartender, she said.
Oh, I was too.
He was too.
Oh, cool. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And moving right along. Number 9, a handwritten letter or email?
Handwritten letter.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay. And number 10, Jerry thinks that this really gets us to understand a person deeply.
The most telling question on the 10.
Ketchup or mustard?
Oh my gosh. That's hard because it depends on what it is. So let me think.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, I'm a mustard girl.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A little spicy.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Very good.
Great questions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the most important question that we ask everyone is, what does a life well lived mean to you?
A life well lived to me means a life in which you have poured into others. That's a life well lived.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love that.
I do too.
Gosh, I got chills. Look, I got chills. I love that.
Yeah.
But it's about, and that's what it's about. Helping people. And my husband and I are aligned in that way. We both get very excited at helping people reach the grandest version of themselves.
Mm.
That's very exciting. And he does it in his corporate executive way, and I do it through food. And that's very rewarding. It's really rewarding, whether you're influencing one person or a million people. It's really, really rewarding. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I love this question and I always love the answers, but I will just tell you, I know we told you before we even started that we've wanted you on the podcast for a long time and we always get shocked when anyone says yes, but I really wanted you to say yes and I'm really glad you did. And I'm glad we finally were able to schedule it, but we love everything that you do and everything that you put out, and it aligns so much with what we want for ourselves. But I just love when anyone puts anything out into the world that yes does help people. And I would say for you, you are most definitely, if that is your version of life well lived, you're doing it because you're definitely fulfilling that. Definitely.
So much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely helping us. I mean, I know that you're helping so many other people, but I think there's so many, while there can be so many negative things in the world, you just put out so much positivity and so much, like we were talking earlier, useful things. And I just love it.
Oh, me too. I feel like watching your cooking videos on Instagram and whatnot are, to me, they're as accessible as any of them, or just more relaxing or enjoyable to me. Like I feel like I can warm up to them at least as quick, if not quicker than a lot that I see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So great. I think because I'm just being LA and I'm being who myself, I'm being who I would want to see,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I'm kind of like, I've seen a bunch of stuff where I'm like, that wasn't useful. It's just like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wasted my time.
And you're not on
Or,
a pedestal.
yeah,
No,
I
you
mean,
don't judge,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. And the great thing about social media and all these spaces that you get to decide who you want to be. And
Yeah.
I want to be me. And
Yeah.
my natural self is fun, engaging, and upbeat and approachable.
Yeah.
And that's what Black Girls Eat is all about.
It's funny. I said to Jerry after I met you in person, after watching you for so long, and I met you in person in Brooklyn at the end of last year at the Black Her event, and I texted him because you took a picture with me, and I texted him the picture, and I said, I'm at LA. And I said to him, and she was really nice. And, when you admire someone, you admire what they do, and I have talked about this before to Jerry, you really just want them to be nice. And you go, oh God, what if you meet them and they're just not, and you were genuinely nice and you are.
Yeah.
And,
There's no other way to be. I mean, just don't be mean to people. I mean, this is insane. There are just a lot of mean people on the planet, and I'm not one of them. And I'm so glad you came to Blogger. I mean, Blogger, I was blubbering, because that was such an emotional day for me. Because, like I said, I'd been going to Blogger, since 2015.
Yeah,
and,
it's a great event.
Yeah,
I love it.
these
Mhm.
notes and trying to figure this thing out, and meeting Sam Ski, who just became a friend and a mentor, and was like, "We're gonna have you on stage." And I was like, "What?" Like, oh gosh, I've been in that audience thinking about my life and what I want to do, and and so it was a very emotional day for me. But I was so grateful to be there, and I hope that folks in the audience and folks at home felt encouraged. Felt like, yes, you know what? I'm going to take the next step toward my dream. I deserve this. I deserve this, right? And I meet people all the time who put their dreams aside to have a family or to go, do other things, take care of parents. And so sometimes you just say, okay, this is my turn. This is my time.
Yeah.
I can do it. You guys are doing this podcast and inspiring other people, right? You said we were in that city and we left that craziness, and now we're over here enjoying the coast, enjoying each other. Like, that's a big move, and you're inspiring other people who will say, you know what? I'm going to downsize. I'm going to simplify my life. I'm going to lean into love.
Yeah.
That is like, come on. That's a movie right there. Like Vow. That's a movie right there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
That's really
thanks.
nice. Well, tell our listeners where they can find you. I mean, I think we've said it a million times, but I want them to hear it again. Tell them where they
Yes.
can find you.
Yes, it's your girl LA from Black Girls Eat. And you can find me on Instagram at Black Girls Eat or hit me up at the website at blackgirlseat.com.
Yes. Well, thank you
Wonderful.
so much for being with us today. What an honor and how valuable this was.
This was incredible. Very
Fantastic.
engaging and-
Fantastic. I appreciate you guys. And if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, I'll be sure to look you up. And you make sure you do the same if you come to New York City.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
definitely.
Indeed.
And maybe one day we'll cook something together online.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds lovely.
Wow. What do you think?
I mean, she's just, I was really at close to tears with her. She's just, she's such a motivational person. And all of our guests that we have on the Spark in Our Lives are, obviously, which is why we have them on. They're a spark in our lives. LA, she's just someone who really, of course, walks the walk, talks the talk. But the fact that she puts the information out there really to genuinely help people, and it all came from this space that was really nurturing and helping heal herself, is really what we're about, And it's just warm. That whole time that we spent with her was just warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was comfortable, really comfortable with her from the very get-go, having met her for the first time. You had met her.
Mm-hmm.
I had not. I was very familiar with her Instagram platform. So this was the first time actually getting to talk to her and engage with her. And yeah, I felt really comfortable with her from the get-go. It was just a good experience all around.
Yeah, she's a really kind soul. I mean, you can just feel that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's putting a lot of good info out there in the world. I can't get enough of it on the Instagram.
No, and her blog is just a great resource. I know we talked about it, blackgirlseat.com. If you are someone who, like she said, if you just want to do better and just get more plants on your plate, her website is a really great place to start. It's just, when Jerry and I stopped eating meat back in, I think it was like 2013, the end of 2013, I just remember having no clue what we were doing. I mean, we just started eating, I think it was just a bunch of sugar and just, fillers.
Right.
We just didn't have any idea what we were doing. It was definitely not plant-based in the beginning.
We did go in pretty unprepared. Yeah. So it's been a process. So.
Yeah. And, since then we've, worked with nutritionists and things like that. But I think the really great thing about LA is that she just puts this easy, tangible feel to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Really like a personable kind of.
And not judgy.
Right.
I think that's really important.
She's not up on a pedestal saying, okay, now eat the whole bowl that I prepared. And, like that.
Right. Right.
You're not leaving the table till you do.
Right.
None of that.
And there's some really easy recipes. We'll put some of our favorites. I know we talked about that butternut squash cream sauce, which has been such a game changer. We'll definitely put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
One of the things I forgot to mention to her, and I know I've said this on there was a sort of a virtual Zoom thing that she was on that I was an audience member of. And I know I put it in the little notes, but during COVID, because I've been a follower of her for a long time, but her logo, can we talk about that? I cannot believe I didn't talk about that in the podcast.
It's our show. We can.
I'm talking about with her. With her logo for Black Girls Eat. I don't know who designed it. I really, really regret we didn't talk about it on with her.
Yeah.
Her logo for Black Girls Eat is an avocado for like a face.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like hair and a little bow.
Yeah.
It's adorable. It's the best logo I've ever seen in my life. And every time I just see her and she's wearing the apron with the Black Girls Eat logo, all I see is that just little adorable avocado.
Yeah, it is cool.
It's precious.
It's simple, but but just so cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the best logo ever.
Mm-hmm.
So go look at her logo, but definitely go and follow her. It's always so positive, always so uplifting. Even if you aren't like, oh my gosh, I want to go plant-based, her recipes are still really good food. I mean, you should just go and look and up your health game.
Oh yeah,
Right?
the way she presents it on her posts, it's just mouthwatering just to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you actually get there, boy,
Yeah.
in real time, in real life, we eat those,
Yeah.
prepare those dishes that she presents. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yeah. And like I said, having met her in person and now talked with her now for over an hour for the podcast, she really is just such a lovely person. And it really is true. I met her at a Blog Her event in Brooklyn at the end of 2021. And I really did text Jer right after and was like, I just met LA in person and she was so great. And how, you can be disappointed sometimes when you meet people and they're not very nice. But she was lovely.
Oh, yeah. Lovely and warm and friendly. And
Yeah. So anyway, well, look, if this episode resonated with you at all, or, if you think that someone should know about it, please share it with a friend. If you'd like to know more about LA, Black Girls Eat, or any of the information that we reference, all of that will be down in the show notes. As always, you can find us at arneradventures.com, on Instagram at arneradventures, also linked in the show notes.
So until next time, enjoy the journey that you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Bye.